Hello everyone, Jules here. Today I'd like to discuss a topic that I think is a good idea in order to provide some clarification about some different terms that are often used or seen in metaphysical subjects and topics. And the title of my video is Astrology and Chakras, and the subtitle is Systems versus Correspondences. And the reason why I want to make this video and discuss this topic is because over a period of time I have noticed that there seems to be a bit of confusion about the difference between a metaphysical system and correspondences. And these terms get confused quite a lot, and it's quite misleading as far as information is concerned, and also for the understanding of people who are interested in metaphysical subjects and topics. And the confusion between metaphysical systems and correspondences can lead to not only confusion but a lot of misleading information. So first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about separate systems that I have studied and that I'm qualified in, and I'm going to talk about the origin of some of the systems and where the idea of correspondences has come from. And I have also made previous videos, for example, about astrology and tarot and why they are two separate systems. And I saw and noticed a video made recently about astrology and chakras. And that video in particular has led me to realize that I needed to make this video today to talk about the difference between systems in relation to correspondences. So, to talk first about astrology. As a qualified astrologer, this is an astrology chart. It has no relationship at all to tarot. It has no relationship at all to chakras. So, where there is any information around on YouTube implying that there is a direct relationship between an astrology chart and the tarot, for example, or the astrology chart and chakras, it's actually incorrect and it's misleading for viewers. Astrology is a very ancient system. This is a chart of an example of Western astrology. And Western astrology is based on the very ancient Babylonian system that first came into being. So this is the Western system of astrology. And of course it has nothing to do with chakras. It has nothing to do with tarot either. Totally separate, unrelated systems. Now, here's a chakra diagram. For people who don't know, the chakra system was created by the Hindus, the ancient Hindus. This is a very old system, and the chakras are energy centers of the subtle body, and the subtle body is an invisible energy field of the body. I have also undertaken and completed a course in chakras as well, and energy healing. So the only system of chakras, the original system is Hindu based, and the ancient Hindus were the only ones who ascribed planets, the 7 original planets, to the 7 main chakras of the body. And this is the only recognized system of chakras that has any relationship to the 7 original planets. It has nothing to do with an astrology chart. Even the Hindu system of astrology, which is also known as the Vedic system, it does not relate the chakra system at all to its own Hindu system of astrology. They're separate things. So I just wanted to talk about the origins of the chakra system and how it has no relationship to astrology charts, and how even with the Hindu or Vedic system, it is only to do with the 7 original planets, not the later outer planets that are sometimes used in Western astrology. So I just wanted to mention that as well. The origin of the chakra system, the origin of astrology, totally separate systems. And just going back to astrology, for example, astrology as a system and the chakra system, for example, predate tarot and playing cards by hundreds of years. These are ancient systems. Even the Kabbalah diagram behind me is also a very ancient system, far, far earlier than tarot or playing cards. Now the only system, and this is a modern system, the only system that I am aware of that makes any mention of astrology and tries to relate that with the chakra system is a system called human design. Here is a picture of a human design chart. And this was created in the late 80s by a man who I think was originally from Canada. And this was channeled information. So the idea of having these centers of the body, and one of them being a chakra, and planets being assigned to the body in this way. And this system even uses the I Ching. So there's so many things that are thrown into the human design system. It's almost like, well, why not throw in the kitchen sink as well? I mean, it's not only a conglomeration hybrid theory, it's actually a system of putting people into very strict personality categories. I have looked into this system and I'm not in favour of this system. Even with astrology, it is not a good idea to put people into hard categories of personality according to their planetary positions in the signs. It's just not correct, it's not accurate, and it's not helpful to people to divide people into strict criteria of personality. So that is called the human design system, and that is the only one that I am aware of, which is a modern system from the late 80s, that tries to assign a chakra with astrology, and as I said, even throws in the I Ching. So, what I have noticed, for example, with using astrology as a system for many years, even with Kabbalah, less is more. It's confusing to potential clients, people who are interested in studying these things. It's just not really helpful because it's not accurate. And these later systems like human design are not fully recognized systems because they haven't stood the test of time as the ancient systems of astrology or Kabbalah or chakra or the separate chakra system. These have all stood the very, very long and ancient test of time. So I wanted to talk about that particular system because that's the only one that I'm aware of, as I said, that attempts to try to relate a chakra with the astrology chart. Now, to talk just a little bit more about the differences between systems and correspondences. Now, as a lot of people know, the Book of Thoth book, this is based on the Golden Dawn Correspondences for Tarot. Tarot is a system in its own right, but what happened with the Golden Dawn created correspondences for Tarot. And the Golden Dawn created astrology correspondences for Tarot as well. And that was most likely done, the relationship of the correspondences was most likely done by Samuel Mathers, one of the main original founders of the Golden Dawn, who wrote the first Book of Thoth for the Golden Dawn Correspondences, and Aleister Crowley wrote this later extended version. And Samuel Mathers decided to put astrology correspondences for the major arcana and the minor arcana. The major arcana astrology correspondences are to do with the paths of Kabbalah, but the minor arcana were assigned what is known as the decans, the Chaldean decans astrology correspondences. And esoteric scholars still do not know why Samuel Mathers did that. There is no reason in regard to Kabbalah for why astrology correspondences were assigned to the minor arcana according to the Chaldean decans. And Samuel Mathers was not an astrologer, so it doesn't really make very much sense as far as the minor arcana are concerned. And I know there were a series of videos made trying to relate those minor arcana or even the whole of tarot to astrology charts, and I know that there was a book written about tarot and astrology that are very misleading, and they're not accurate because they're totally different systems. Aleister Crowley actually was an astrologer, and when he wrote his own version of the Book of Thoth, he decided that he was going to uphold the astrology correspondences for the minor arcana as well as the major arcana, because as an astrologer he was able to give some explanations for those, because he was quite a good astrologer. But it still doesn't solve the mystery of why the minor arcana have the deckhands of astrology assigned to them. Now, the difference between correspondences and systems. You have your main systems of any kind, whether it's Kabbalah, astrology, chakras. These are systems in their own right. Tarot is a separate system, and numerology is another one. These are all separate systems, and some of these separate systems have their own correspondences that can relate within those systems. It is when people try to combine different systems together, when things get confusing and complicated, and they're actually inaccurate. They are very confusing and they don't make sense because they don't actually belong together. Now, one more example I want to talk about now is this book called the Tarot Handbook by Angeles Arrien. It was written in 1987. Now, this goes back to the late 80s. And what Angeles Arrien did was she devised a system of numerology to go with the tarot cards, with the whole deck. So this was Angeles Arrien combining tarot, the system of tarot, with numerology. And she used the Thoth deck for this system. And it can be used for the Waite Smith system as well, but a couple of the numerals in this system need to be changed around because of the card, the Major Arcana card number 8 being Justice, or number 11. It's the Justice card is number 8 in the Thoth system and the Marseille system, but it is card number 11 in the Waite system. So that has to be changed around. But anyway, Angeles Arrien wrote this book in 1987 and devised a system using numerology with the tarot. And it was a system with the numbers from 1 to 9. And she also came up with the idea of calling these 1 to 9 ideas, as she called them constellations. And she actually thought of these as archetypal constellations. She used the word constellations as groupings. So the numbers from 1 to 9, each of these main numbers from 1 to 9 are all tied in with the 1 to 9 of the Major Arcana of the tarot cards. So there's the Magician constellation, there's the High Priestess constellation, and for example, for the High Priestess, she would have the card number 2, High Priestess, also with the number 2 cards of the Minor Arcana, and she would also put the number 11 card adding up to 2 and the Judgment card, which is number 20. So she actually devised this system. She was the first one to do this. And the chapter in this book about that in particular is it's called a section of the, I think you can see it here, 9 archetypal constellations found within the tarot. So this is all from 1 to 9. It goes all the way up to the Hermit, so that the Hermit card is number 9, and that is also grouped with the Moon card and the number 9 cards of the Minor Arcana. And if you're wondering what happens with number 10, well, that goes in with the Magician constellation. Of course, that number 10 breaks down to number 1. And the Fool card is number 22 in this system, which breaks down to number 4. So that goes into the Emperor constellation. And also the Death card fits in there because number 13 adds up to a number 4. So here again is another example of combining systems. You know, this is tarot with numerology. It kind of works. I know that there are some people, I know there's another author as well who has also thrown in the Enneagram with this. There's at least one book that's been written about the tarot, the cards from 1 to 9, and putting that with the Enneagram. The Enneagram is also numbered from 1 to 9. So none of these ideas are new. None of these ideas are really new. But only some of them work, because there is a problem about putting in a whole different conglomeration of systems together, trying to make them work. But I also think there's also a misleading, confusing. I think it's very, very misleading to sort of pass off information as being part of a system, giving people the idea, for example, with an astrology chart, you know, looking at an astrology chart and saying, oh, okay then, so this relates to chakra positions and this relates to tarot. It's totally incorrect, and it's very misleading for people. So that's why I wanted to say a few things about the differences between the different separate metaphysical systems. They have their own theories, their own components, and their own correspondences in their own right. So combining different systems together, I call them hybrids. They are hybrids. They usually don't work. Even the correspondences of the Golden Dawn were putting the tarot with Kabbalah. And that does work to some extent. It does work, but this is just to let people know to be mindful that all of these different systems that I've mentioned are separate systems in their own right, and combining systems can be misleading, inaccurate. They don't fully work. They don't always work. And as I was saying, it's not helpful to people to give people the impression that combining these systems is a given and that it does work and that it is something that is routinely done, because the combining of these systems is not routinely done. It is something that a lot of people are trying to force different systems together, and I think it's really important to understand that they're separate systems that have well and truly stood the test of time, and that is why they are respected as separate systems. So I'll put some of the details for a couple of the books that I've referred to, and I hope this has been helpful to clarify the differences between systems and correspondences. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.